All right, here we are.
We are live here at the Metal Voice Studios.
All right, let's get Tony.
Anxiously awaiting Tony Moore, ex-Riot, known for his infamous vocals on Thundersteel.
As we wait, can you please give us a little bit of
The Privilege of Power?
Give us a little bit of Thundersteel, Alan.
Immortal Soul.
Give us a little bit of Thundersteel.
Thundersteel!
Okay.
That was pathetic.
Like my shirt?
Yes.
Like my shirt, Riot 5. Very cool. All right, Tony.
Immortal Soul. That was a great comeback album. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Immortal Soul, right here, my friend.
Yeah.
Look here. Look at you, look. This.
I like it a lot.
This is a great album. Thundersteel. Thundersteel.
Yeah, Thundersteel. It was there's harder.
So we're going to do on the show. We're just waiting for Tony to log in. Once Tony's logged in, we'll get started. But here's the deal, Alan.
What's today's show about, Jimmy?
Today's show about is Tony Moore, as we mentioned it. Tony Moore, also 5 up-and-coming bands. So we had this little contest. Bands nominate their friends or the band's followers nominated these bands. So I didn't pick them out. I didn't pick them. Nobody picked them.
We had a contest on the Metal Voice.
It was a contest. And we'll talk about these bands with Tony
as
soon as he jumps on.
Holiday gift to these up-and-coming bands.
And yes, Princess Leia news. Princess Leia news. She passed away. Her mother passed away,
Yes.
which is even more shocking.
That's relevant how.
So, yeah, very sad day for Star Wars fans. The princess is dead. Okay, so let's see what's going on. Hey, guys. So I'll say hi to everybody. Riot. What's it going to take to make
Still out there plugging away under the banner of Riot 5.
Yes. Here, I'll show everybody a little screenshot here as we wait for Tony. I know Tony's going to jump on any second now.
There you go.
So here we go. Let's share this with everybody. There.
Tony back in the day.
There we go. There we are.
The Thundersteel album cover.
There, Privilege of Power. There we are.
Power.
Here we are. See that? Very fancy.
And any of you who have not checked out Immortal Soul yet, that's a great album. One of the last ones with Mark Reale.
You know, Mark didn't really participate much on that album, but we'll get Tony to speak to that. And here's Tony. Here we go. Tony, you're there.
Hey, Jimmy, what's going on?
Slap on some video there, Tony.
Tony is on the Metal Voice.
Hello, gentlemen.
Tony, all I can see is there's the man.
What's up, guys?
Good, Tony. Let's start off right off the bat. I mean, you're doing some stuff, and a lot of people. I ask people the questions, and there's the first question everybody's asking me is, "What is Tony Moore up to?" I mean, his silence has been broken, Alan.
That's it.
Since 2011, his silence has been broken. Live on the Metal Voice, the silence. Tony is back, and Tony, tell us. First of all, say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, by the way.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody who's watching us. It's so great to talk to you guys. You guys have you guys enjoying the holidays?
Yes, very much so. Beautiful,
Great.
beautiful holidays. It's snowing so much here, Tony. It's like disgusting. But
Well, you know what's happening here. 72 and sunny.
Thank you.
There. And that's it for today's show.
Tony Moore. All right. So, all right. We by the way, you can actually open up the chat and you can actually see people's messages coming in. Just so you know, I could see the guys like, "Hey man, it's
Somebody's
where's
looking.
Dave Mustaine? Hey Tony."
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of messages popping in as we're talking.
I don't know where Dave Mustaine is. That's to answer your question. Somebody, metal dude up north.
Anyways, so Tony, tell us what you have been up to. What's going on? What have you been doing lately? Let's put Tony Moore right off the bat.
Well, I've been working with Neil Turbin. We talked about this a while back. I know that you're in touch with Neil. And we've been doing this absolutely crazy thing called the Immortal Soul Band. And I know, what could that possibly be? Well, who knew that Neil Turbin is just the most remarkable soul singer? I mean, I was blown away. And he had this concept that he wanted to do some classic soul and R&B stuff with a total rock angle. And so we got this three-piece band together. It's me on bass and playing bass in this freaking band, which is great.
Slapping the bass.
That's all I ever wanted to do, by the way, musically. I just as an aside, when I met the guys in Riot, I think in 1986, I had just come back from a year and a half of playing bass in a blues band on Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
There you go.
Yeah, so Riot was a huge left turn for me, but that's a whole nother story. That's that kind of music. I mean, Spinners, Temptations, Four Tops, some of that stuff, you know, Otis Redding, some of that stuff, these grooves are really mean. And if you lean on this stuff with a rock sensibility, you know, the stuff really kicks ass. And so it's the rhythm section is me, Vinny Vinciguerra is this awesome, like, bottom style drummer. And he's doing a project with Joel Hextra from Whitesnake, the guitarist.
Yes, of course.
And Tony Franklin playing bass.
Oh yeah, from Blue Murder fame.
Yeah. So they have a project called VHF, which is very, very trippy, but very, very heavy. It's really cool, mostly instrumental stuff. So Vinny's the drummer on this, and Darren Householder is the guitarist, and he's a monster, this guy. So we're looking at these tunes and just stripping them down to the, you know, just down to the grooves and laying into these things really heavy. And we've been performing on and off here in LA at Lucky Strike Live. And when we play out, we do it with full horn sections, background vocals.
Oh, yeah.
And man, I am having a ball just sitting back and laying into these classic grooves, and it's so much fun. And also yesterday, just started a project with Alex Kane on guitar. And this is going to be a straight ahead hard rock / heavy metal thing. We're just in the early stages of writing. This is going to be me, Vinny, and Alex, just going to be straight up three-piece. I'm going to be playing bass and singing lead.
Nice.
So we're just now starting to share grooves and start the writing process. So that's where I'm at.
So you're planning to with this new band, do you have a name for it? Have you?
Nope, absolutely nothing yet.
Riot 6. No, just kidding. No, just joking. No. So I know that Neil Turbin, the band you have with Neil Turbin, they're called Immortal Soul.
Yeah, the Immortal Soul Band.
The Immortal Soul Band, and you guys swing around LA, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Any plans to just go further than California, or?
Yeah, we're going to record stuff because we're getting some really, really good response to this. People are really digging it live, you know, because we lay into this stuff pretty heavy. Right. I mean, you know, you got, you know, the emphasis is first of all, Neil is a crazy great soul singer, but he brings this intensity. I mean, you know what he does, you know. Yeah. His styling is ridiculous, man. I mean, his phrasing, you know, and his command of that genre. I had no idea.
It's funny, Tony, you know, it's funny. Neil, I mean, some people don't know this, but he tried out for Riot, you know, back in the day, back in the Narita days, I guess. Way
yeah,
back. I don't know if you remember that. So I mean, it's kind of like it's full circle. He's come full circle.
He told me about that, and we ran into each other back in the day. I think it was like 1988 or 89. Riot was playing at the old country club in Reseda out here in the Los Angeles area, and we ran into each other, but I hadn't seen him since then, you know. So of course we always sort of followed each other, you know, each other's careers because we're both New York boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, he's great. He's absolutely great. He has like so much energy and just, you know, a ridiculous command of his instrument. Man, he's so good.
And on another note, on your new band, are you also planning to record and perhaps tour? Or you just want to see how it goes, or what's the story with that?
We're going to record first. We're going to, you know, I mean, it's so easy to write and record stuff these days. I mean, you know, with like everybody on earth has Pro Tools, and that's a good thing and it's a bad thing.
Sure.
But I mean, that's how, like the way we did Immortal Soul with Riot was the five of us were never in the room at the same time. So, you know, Bobby and Don were doing, you know, bass and drums in San Antonio.
Yep.
I did easy 75% of the vocals out here in LA, and I actually recorded with Joe Floyd, guitar player from Warrior. If you remember those guys, Joe, I'm in a band with him as well.
Yeah.
And he's a fantastic engineer. So we did most of the vocals out here in LA. I did a couple of vocal, well, one, I think 4 or 5 day stretch of vocals, back in New York. But then, Mike did all the guitars, 90% of the guitars in New York. That was Mike anyhow. But and then it was up to Bruno Ravel, our engineer / co-producer,
Sure.
from Danger Danger, who engineered and mixed and mastered the record. So
incredible album.
So this poor guy was getting music files from all over the country, but fortunately, all the engineers involved knew what they were doing. And Bruno is fantastic. I'll tell you the truth. And I was just talking to Vinny about this yesterday. Of the 3 studio albums that I did with Riot, Immortal Soul, far and away, is the best sounding of the three records, and it was the one that was done most unconventionally. No tape.
It's a great sounding album. It's a great sounding album. I guess that's for me. Thundersteel. I love the songs. The songs are incredible, but the sound, right? The sound, and I get it. I mean, look, it was done, in the late '80s. There, I get it. I mean, but the songs are incredible. I wish there was sort of like a I don't know if I would call it a remastered, but I would call it a remix, perhaps. And
sure,
I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, because interestingly enough, recording at Green Street, we had access to the best equipment that was available, back in the day. I mean, those guys during the good periods of our relationship, Steve and the engineers there, Rod Hoy and all the guys who worked on it. We had the best consoles, the best tape machines, the best outboard gear. Why the stuff came out, sounding a little, not quite as heavy as it should have been. Because the performances were certainly there. But yeah, I always took issue with the production. I thought Privilege of Power was better, but Immortal Soul is far and away the best sounding of the 3 records. It's got a real presence, and it was done with with a clear purpose in mind.
Yeah, I got some questions for you. Okay, for some people, right? Yeah. And by the way, Tony, what we'll do is we'll talk. We'll take questions. We'll go back to talking. We're chit-chatting, Alan. We're chit-chatting. Yeah. Here we go. I heard there was leftover songs from Immortal Soul. Will they ever be released? Or maybe they've been leaked on the internet. I don't know.
Yes, there was a bunch of stuff. We didn't just write 11 songs or whatever it was and be done with it and everyone was perfect. But I have a feeling that anything that was left over from Immortal Soul has probably already been incorporated into the stuff that Riot 5 has recorded already or will record.
Okay.
So I answer your question. I don't think there are any like lost tracks that are going to turn up that you probably haven't heard already. So now Mike would know that better than me, but as I recall, we stripped stuff down to what was working and what wasn't, and anything that didn't get finished might have been a groove that Donnie wrote and kept in his back pocket. Something tells me that anything good from those sessions has probably already been used. Okay. But I could be wrong about that. I don't know.
You could be wrong. Here's a question from us. And I think this is a huge question, right? Okay. And after we answer this question, we'll go into the bands that we talked about, the up and coming bands. And we'll flip back and forth. We got all night, No, I'm just kidding. All right. First question is why, and I know these answers. I mean, we've talked, right?
Okay.
And just so everybody knows, there's a Riot tour documentary in the works that I'm working on, and we're all, Alan's there, and Giles there, and Tony's there, and the Riot 5 guys are there, and it explains, that documentary is going to pretty much explain, what happened in great detail. But you can give an overview, Tony. Why did you leave Riot after you made the masterpiece of Immortal Soul. And just maybe you want to just briefly tell us.
Well, honestly, it was kind of a traumatic process for me, and really most of the reasons were personal. You know, I was having a little difficulty fitting in Los Angeles. I'm a New Yorker, and getting back into like the whole world of metal and everything that entails in terms of working, didn't come naturally. You know, back in the 80s, when I was fearless and much younger, you know, the whole idea of just like taking a left turn and creating this character, Tony Moore, which is essentially a character. You know, I was a little more flexible back then in terms of my personality. And then all of a sudden, all these years have gone by, and then I'm out here. It seemed kind of surreal. I think the thing that iced it for me was when we went out. We did like a little like a mini tour, culminating in the 70,000 tons of metal cruise.
Right.
And while we, as you guys probably know, while we were on that cruise, we were out there touring, you know, without Mark because he was very, very sick. Mike was trying to play all the guitar parts. He played like his head was on fire every night to cover this stuff. And he's a freaking genius. You know, I mean, Mike Flintz is probably one of the most, I mean, hopefully not anymore, but certainly in my eyes, one of the most underrated guitarists in metal. He plays with such passion and skill. But anyway, he's out there trying to cover all those guitar parts. We're trying to play some shows in little clubs. We showed up to this one place. The club was closed. The promoter's trying to, you know, trying to keep our deposit. And it just rang a lot of bells for me. It's like, holy shit. You know, this is back in the world of rock and roll where musicians still get screwed 24/7. And it was just laid out for me so clearly. And I thought to myself, honestly, fuck this. as good as this band is,
show me the money.
as good as this band is, and I'll tell you guys, and I know you probably agree with me. You know, pound for pound, there isn't more talent anywhere in metal than the guys. You know, those five guys from Thundersteel, Privilege of Power. And for us to be treated the way we were treated was just, you know, it was just incredibly insulting. I lived for hearing Bobby Jarzlambek kick off anything, you know, because that immediately filled me. Immediately filled me with such fire, and you know, and once those guys cranked it up, and I got on stage, you know, it was all good, but everything else sucked. And then
let's just tell everybody this. How much money did you get paid for all those three? Well, we'll say the Thundersteel years. How much money did you get paid from all these years being in Riot?
Well, you mean from actually selling
from song credit? Sorry, from publishing and
yeah, $0.
Oh boy.
I still get royalty statements from Japan, insisting that somehow we've never covered our advance. Amount due 0 yen. Oh. Okay. So
and people complain today, right? And people complain today, Tony.
In a lot of ways, it's worse today because I mean, streaming. You know, you get paid a fraction of a penny per download.
Well, you get a fraction, right?
Yeah,
you get a fraction
of a cent. So anyway, to come back around to answering the question of why I left, you know, all this stuff was happening. It was going down exactly the same way that it had before. To the guys' credit, they all wanted to tour, you know, like demons, and I just didn't have it in me. And then when Mark passed away while we were on that cruise, it just took the starch out of me, man, and I didn't have it in me to continue to go forward.
Yeah.
You know, Mike, to his credit, has made it his mission to, you know, carry on Mark's legacy, and I wish those guys all the success that they deserve. I see, you know, I keep in touch with them on Facebook. I watch where they're going, where they're touring. They're playing to bigger and bigger audiences, and they seem, you know, they seem happy, and they deserve it. So, but yeah, long story short, I just lost my taste for the business. You know, I just couldn't be treated that way at this stage in my life, and I couldn't watch the other guys, you know, go through it as well after we'd all worked so hard. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, let's go to the first band, okay? And again, this is no order. This doesn't mean one band is better than the other. How this happened was, like we said, it was a contest, and it was the followers of the bands, the ones with the most sort of nominations and votes. Those are the 5 that we decided on. I'm going to throw in a 6th one as well.
A lot of it.
So here we go. I'm going to show you a picture, Tony. I don't know if you heard all the bands. Did you take?
Yeah, I actually have notes for everybody. I have.
Here we go. That's what we want. Here's the picture of. Here we go.
Tony Moore review section here on the Metal Voice.
Can you see it? No, you can't see
Wardrum. Yeah, I got it.
Can you see Wardrum? No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me just do that again.
He said, yeah.
I don't think I did it properly. Present to everyone. Okay, should be on the screen now. Wardrum. Do you see that?
Yep, I got it.
All right. So again, I mean, we understand these guys. Some of the guys are a little more experienced. Some of these guys are, you know, a little less experienced. Some of these guys have been doing it, have 3-4 albums. Other guys have been doing this just recently. So these guys are from Greece, from Salonika. They're formed in 2010. They've got 3 albums. This new album's called Awakening, 2016. And the first thing I thought when I heard this album was, or this song, and a few of these songs was, oh my God, it's Riot. It sounds, I mean, it's Tony Moore. I go, and these guys are great, in my opinion. I don't know, Alan.
Yeah, very pleasant. That's what I love about this show. Bands we would never probably ever hear of.
Yes.
And we got 5 quality bands that were all suggested by our viewers, and it's just a complete joy to listen to. And like you said, very surprising, a great band. I enjoyed listening to them tremendously.
Yeah. So Tony, tell us what you thought. I mean, and again, I mean, maybe you can guide them. Maybe you can say, "Oh, yeah, these guys are on track." I mean, just tell us about what you thought.
I'll tell you, the first thing that I'm going to say, and this is a suggestion that I would make to any of the bands, any of the 5, or actually 7 bands, because you threw in a couple of wild cards. Yeah, listen to those guys as well. I would make one overall comment for everybody, and this would be just a general suggestion for, you know, I don't care if you've been doing this for 20 years or if you're just getting started, you know, as a kid and you want to go into this genre. Listen to stuff other than metal. Okay.
Yeah. Good point.
Because now this is coming from a personal angle, but I made it work for me, and this is the reason I'll try to explain my rationale for this. When I came to Riot, I was not a metal guy. I had always liked hard rock, you know, and the heaviest stuff that was going on in the 70s was the stuff that I enjoyed the most. But metal, as we know it, had not been invented during my formative years. And like I said, my training is as an instrumentalist is in classical, is in jazz, is in funk.
Sure.
And so when I came to Riot, coming off the heels of this New Orleans blues gig, my head was in another place musically, and I had never heard music like this before. When I was handed the cassette with the demo of Thundersteel on it for me to learn and audition, I was terrified because I was completely unfamiliar. This was some of the first real fully gestated speed metal that had ever been recorded. Yeah. The genre was just coalescing. So I came to this stuff, and I didn't write a great deal on Thundersteel, but I wrote a ton on Privilege of Power. I wrote all the lyrics, wrote all the melodies, and did all the vocal arrangements, coming from an angle of somebody who did not really know metal. Okay, so the thing about metal in general, and I think you guys would probably agree with me, it is a very circumspect medium. Everybody is watching everybody else. Metal guys are listening to lots and lots of metal. There is a tremendous legacy of it now. There's tremendous body of work that's been divided into so many subgenres that I can't even keep track of them. I think there is merit in bringing an outside view into writing for metal. And the reason that I believe in this is because I had never listened to this stuff while I was writing what is considered to be some decent metal, and I only started listening to bands that we were being compared to. Okay, so it's like, oh my God, you guys are, where Thundersteel was an influence on on Judas Priest for Painkiller. I'm like, yeah, really? Let me go listen to some Judas Priest, just to see if I had a handle on this. Am I doing this right? So I started listening to guys I was being compared to: Bruce Dickinson, Jeff Tate, Rob Halford, and I listened and I dug it, and I thought, yeah, I got this. All right, so let's go back to writing. So, as an overall comment and suggestion, go out and listen to anything else. Listen to bluegrass. Listen to, find something you like. Patsy Cline, I don't care. Find other stuff to listen to that's not metal, and give yourself a break so you can come back to it with a fresh perspective. Now, that said, let's listen to a little Wardrum here. Yeah.
But in a good way. I don't mean in a negative way. All
right. So, love these guys. Now, a couple of things I'm going to say. Great playing, singing. The drummer's awesome. I'm a sucker for a solid drummer as a bass player. That's expected. The bassist does some very inventive stuff melodically. Interesting. He's taking some. He's taking a leap into the melodic realm and getting away from holding down the root. I love it. I think these guys are on the right track. The stuff is sophisticated, but it's and it's not trite. I would really my suggestion would be to step back from it and think about what makes you guys special. Now, guys in Wardrum, if you're listening to me, great job. I think just keep doing what you're doing and explore. One other general comment. When you're recording stuff, don't get too caught up in the studio process. I think it's important to get out and play the stuff that you're writing and strip it down to how you would do it live. This is going to give. I think if I had a suggestion for making this recording better, if you strip down the parts to exactly what you would do live, and back off on the layers a little bit, you'd have something that's a little more vital.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Suggestion.
Tony, that if I can just interject, that is so important. That's a great comment. So many times you listen to an album and you're like, these guys are phenomenal. You go and see them live and they can't duplicate it. Let's get it back to the crust, back to the genesis, and build from there. Everybody tends to add on keyboards, symphonic vocals. Let's build this all up, and then it falls flat when it's live. Sure. That's a great comment, Tony, and more bands have to get back. For myself, they have to get back to the genesis, to the essence, and the feeling. Never forget the feeling, guys. That's what it's all about. If you are true to what you're saying, and you get that emotion that's coming through, that's a big part of success in bands.
Now, I'll tell you, but I also will, this one caveat. When we recorded Thundersteel, Privilege, Power, et cetera, yes, I absolutely used the tools that were available in the studio, and we absolutely cherry picked, the best lines and the best takes, and strung them together into these awesome performances. But what happens after that, if you do this stuff, that means you got to get into the practice room and learn that version and be able to deliver it. Now, this is how you improve as a musician, because when I first recorded, just take the song Thundersteel itself. Took a bunch of takes. I was doing something very unfamiliar, learning as I went, and I would nail some lines and I would miss some others, but we put together what was the optimum performance. And then I went back to the practice room and learned that performance. And so when we hit the road, I could do it.
I agree with you.
So, you know, so this is always keep your focus on how am I going to perform this, you know,
Yep.
because this is where you communicate. The purpose of all art is to communicate. And when you're on stage and you are communicating directly with the audience, you strip it down to what you're capable of communicating, what you actually want to say. And if you know that before you go into the studio, you're 10 steps ahead.
All right.
So Tony, when you're in the vocal booth, do you even imagine that you're in front of an audience, that you're singing to people when you're doing your recordings?
Yes, absolutely. And I write that way. I write that way as well. There are two lyrically. I love writing. You know, I love writing lyrics. I think it's my strong point, and that's why I gelled so well with the guys in Riot. They let me go. You know, there are two kinds of lyrics and melodies. They are memorable or forgettable. All right. So the purpose is to have an idea, have something to communicate. You know, it doesn't have to be crystal clear. It doesn't, but it could be just an emotion. But it's important to have a fully formed idea first before you put pen to paper, before you set foot in the vocal booth. You know, what are you trying to say? And like everything doesn't have to have a deep message. I mean, look at AC/DC lyrics. You know, they appeal to our baser instincts, shall we say?
I think it's got to strike a
But
nerve.
it feels great. But it feels great, right?
Striking a
Well, that
nerve.
goes back to what you were saying earlier, locking into the groove that's universal, that everybody gets an emotion out of.
Striking a nerve.
That's
It's
right.
striking
That's
a
right.
nerve. No matter what you say, it's just you have to say it in a way where it moves people. And I think Biff Bifford said that.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
communication is the goal. Reaching.
All right.
Yeah. So okay.
Just sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
This is
I wanna get to
Songwriting
the-
101 with Tony Moore.
Next band, you ready for this? All right. So
Signs.
this is, I'm going to show the picture here. So everybody can see
Okay.
it. Signs of Madness.
Madness.
Signs of Madness. And just so everybody knows, the lead singer, I think it's Christoph, he was the former singer of Sinister Realm, who were around for a long time from Pennsylvania, I believe.
Okay.
And the guys, right off the bat, Alan, I mean, I'm going to give everybody my 10 cents worth.
Yeah.
To me, I love it. I mean, I think they got a great production. They got that sort of like Ronnie James Dio vibe going, you know, classic heavy metal. The album hasn't been released yet, but they're working on the songs. They're from Pennsylvania, like I said. I think, for me, if out of all the bands, I think Signs of Madness was probably my favorite pick. Go ahead.
All right.
Let Tony.
Let's
Okay, let Tony go
Tony's
ahead.
the guest.
Tony, go ahead. I just want to get your 2 cents, Alan.
listen just to a little bit of this here. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
It strikes a nerve.
Yeah. So there's an urgency in there, and I like the production is nice. It's really got a nice kind of live vibe. Now, once again, great playing all around. Comment about excuse me, about the arrangements. Intros, the instrumental intros to all the sections are about twice as long as they need to be. This is a great song if you get to the point. Okay, because you don't need to listen to 32 bars of an intro to get where the song is going. Now, all that said, another terrific drummer. Drum technique is awesome, but at this particular tempo, it's being overplayed. Guy's trying to add. Now he's very technically capable, and he's adding a lot of metal embellishments that I think are unnecessary at this particular tempo. I think if this were played a little more straight ahead, and you make it swing, think how restrained the drumming is in any of a number of Judas Priest songs. But think Hellbent for Leather, because the tempo is similar. The drums, pull back and just swing more. It's more of a straight ahead rock thing. yes, we know this guy can play his ass off, and I love it personally because I stood in front of Bobby Jarzembek for years, and this guy's got more chops than 10 drummers put together.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, it's not 100% necessary, and it detracts from letting this thing swing as a hard rocker, as opposed to trying to turn it into, metal,
Sure.
just with like additional technique. Great song. And the singer, stuff all sounds good. I think he might consider an approach that makes sense to me, which is kind of try to, when you're thinking melodically, try to float the melody over the mayhem, rather than locking yourself into the rhythms and changes as they're being played, because that gives, your chord changes are going in a certain arc, and if you pin the melody to that arc, it becomes, you lose focus and you lose interest. That was one of the first things that I learned standing in front of Riot when we're recording the stuff in Privilege of Power, which had so much technical mastery, but there was this controlled chaos going on. It's like, how do I get my message across? I got to float something totally over top of this that, of course, makes sense melodically, but isn't pinned to the rhythms in order to get your focus on it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely.
man. That's a Dio. I mean, that's a Dio style of singing too. I mean,
Yeah.
he wouldn't play to the chords. He wouldn't play to the progression, the chord progression. He would, exactly what you said, he would float his own melody.
Yeah,
Across
and this is the case in many musical styles. This is songwriting 101. This is not peculiar to hard rock or heavy metal. So yeah,
Less is more from Tony Moore on the drumming aspect.
well, actually, no. In my case, it was always more. It was always my. We used to joke, yeah, less is more, but more is better. So,
So, what do you think quickly?
I remember Christoph from Sinister Realm.
Alex Christoph, sorry.
He actually sent us
Yes.
a promo CD at one point, and that was a thoroughly enjoyable listen.
Yes.
Too,
Yes,
so
it was.
we want to get on with Viken.
Okay, so here's the next one. Tony, here's the next one. Let me share the screen here.
Reduced to Ash.
Viken, reduced to ash. Can you see it, Tony?
yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
oh, wait a
Viken.
minute. No, wait, am I in the?
That doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, there's the album reduced. Yeah, so the tune is called "Sight of Darkness" that you sent me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so let's listen to a little bit of "Sight of Darkness" from Viken. Nice bass. Want to get to it.
Nice groove.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. For me, Tony, I'm just going to start it off. I'm pleasantly surprised with these guys. The music I dig. I like that kind of vocal style. It's kind of like it's sort of like hypnotic in a sense, right? It's very groove oriented, and I know they're a big influence. They love Annihilator. For me, the only con would be, I think they have such a nice atmosphere, a nice doom atmosphere, that if they had a video to sort of like portray it, I think, and again, it doesn't cost a fortune to make a great video, but if they had a great video that sort of portrays the same sort of atmospheric or doom-like metal, I think it would go a lot further. I don't know. That's the music itself is great. I just think the presentation could have been perhaps a lot better.
Sure, and that's always part of it. You have to package everything these days, and so maybe these guys need to think a little bit more about their personality. Now, to tell you my comments, I like the low B sound, as bass player, or and even the tuned down sound. Heavier is better, but right away that puts your sound in a genre, and this is interesting. Something that I discovered as a bass player when I first picked up a 5-string. Okay, now playing 4-stringed instruments your whole life, as soon as you reach down for something that's below that low E, all of a sudden it categorizes what you're doing, and forgive me if I'm not explaining this 100%. Well, just imagine, for years and years and years, rock and roll was played on a 4-string bass. Now, all of a sudden, the bass, bass players start evolving. For me, the first time I heard Jaco Pastorius, I got rid of my Rickenbacker and got my 70 and got a 72 fretless precision bass, which I have to this day, by the way. As soon as you do the drop down thing, as soon as you play below the low E, that puts your music in a place and time. And you're going to, we have a co-star today, Fiorello.
There we go.
Theo hates it when I sit in front of his computer.
Tony Moore.
This is Fiorello.
Hey.
Fiorello's from New York also.
2 New Yorkers on the show here.
And he clearly wants to hang out with me, so we're going to let him do that. Okay, so you're putting yourself in a place and time when you start playing on the low B string or doing the drop down thing. Now that's very cool if you make it work. I'll tell you what I like about these guys. The drummer sits back and grooves, okay, and you don't hear a lot of that in metal these days. Now this guy's playing in the pocket, and that is terrific. I think that's a big plus. One criticism for the singer, his voice sounds great. I love the character, and I love the character of the band overall. The lyrical phrasing needs work. Now, if you write lyrics first and try to stuff them into an existing melody, you run the risk of putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Gotcha.
If you know what I mean. So, and this is something I'm keenly aware of, and it's probably because I had lots of theatrical training and operatic training. Lyrics should, even if you're screaming your brains out, the words should sound like you are speaking them to someone, even though you're singing. So all the inflections need to don't reshape the word into a rhythm that's unnatural for it, and that. Simple thing, if you can do it throughout your writing, elevates your stuff. If you make those kind of lyrical and phrasing mistakes, and I hate to say it because these guys are really good, and I think they're on the verge of being better than really good. It makes your stuff sound amateurish. So go back and look at your lyrics, look at your vocal phrasing, and make sure that it all sounds natural. In other words, if you sit back and write some poetry that you really, really like, go the next step and write a melody that serves it, rather than trying to stuff it into something that the guitarist wrote because he likes the melody. Words have to be free of melody rhythmically. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
I might have missed the memo, but I didn't know Tony was going to review the first 3 Fates Warning albums with John Arch. Talk about putting a twist on words and melody.
John Arch is
out on there.
Is on another level when it comes to melody and words and rhythmic writing.
Yeah, he's got his own thing happening.
He's got his own thing happening. He's like incredible, John Arch.
Yeah, man.
You guys ready for the next one?
Here we go.
Sure,
right,
absolutely.
Here we go.
I have a cat who's decided to go sleep on my lap. But yes, let's check. We're going to "Nothing Can Stop Me" by 20 Grit.
We're going to 20 Grit. Here we go. So
very interesting.
Now these guys are from California. You could probably catch them around town in LA. It's dramatic. It's melodic. I mean, and the guitarist has got this sort of creepy look, which I like. He says he's influenced by Randy Rhoads, Tony Iommi. The vocals, they're great, melodic.
And Buckethead.
Very, very, very Buckethead-like, yes.
Right on.
I don't know. I think, perhaps maybe the production, the songs are great. I just think maybe the production, they could just somehow get a better production, so they sound more, refined, perhaps. I don't know. Your thoughts, Tony?
Okay. Let's listen to a little bit of 20 Grit while we find these guys. What?
For
Okay.
myself, it's very Faith No More came to mind right away when I heard this.
Now here's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, stuff sounds good. Again, as is the case with all these bands, all these guys can play, and all these guys can sing. Now there is some original stuff going on here, but it's a mixed message, and I think they're trying to cover too many styles at once, both musically and visually. Starts out with what could be even like a Guns N' Roses kind of tune, you know, for a medium tempo thing. But then, you know, they fly into like a rapcore kind of vibe. I mean, it leans toward Korn, and of course the guitarist is you know, with the face paint and everything is doing like a death metal thing. I think these guys could be absolutely terrific if they pick a direction and don't let everyone's individual influences get a section in every song. I think there are 3 good songs in this tune. If they pick the sections and work with them. You know, I think it's a matter of focus. I mean, everything sounds great.
Yeah,
but I think every individual in this band has a little too much to say in this particular song. In other words, everybody's influences are showing, but it's not coalescing as a single message.
I like the spooky imagery. That's what I like. I like the spooky.
You like Ghost?
I like Ghost. That's why. Maybe I like Ghost.
Okay.
Another band that comes to mind when I listen to this was Voyager out of Australia. I saw them open up for Evergrey a couple of tours ago, and they also try to fit all these different kind of genres into one song. So
yeah, all right.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with you know, using your influences, but I think these guys need to agree on a common message.
Yeah, man.
And they don't have to all be crammed into one song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. There we go, guys. So that was 20 Grit. Thank you very much for those votes and nominations for all the bands so far. So here we go. Drowned 10. Drowned 10. Let me show. Drowned 10. Drowned 10.
If it's not Scottish, it's crap.
And these guys are not the only guys who are not from the UK in this. The song is called The Abyss, and it's a doom. It's, you know, a very 90s sounding track, very atmospheric. I don't know. I think, look, they're probably a lot less experienced than the other bands in terms of being a band together, perhaps not as musicians, but I liked it. I thought it was a very, you know, why always have the same thing? It's something different. You know?
They drowned 10 what?
They drowned 10.
What?
Oh, hold on.
There we go.
All right, here we go. Go.
That loaded up by itself. All right, so let's just listen to a couple of seconds of this. So give our audience some.
That was even creepier with the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, I like this better. Like the third time around.
Yeah.
It's hypnotic. It's I'll try and come around to what positive criticism I would have for this, and that is Ozzy in an interview quite a while ago was, you know, he's credited with being one of the originators of what we call metal these days, and he was asked what the motivation was for forming, you know, Black Sabbath, and he said, well, you know, I see people making lots of money doing scary movies, and I thought to myself, what if we did some really scary music? And I thought, my God, It's as simple as that, really. That was your idea that launched this whole freaking empire. So with Ozzy in mind, I think this song could work a lot better if there was more energy in the vocal delivery. And now I know what these guys are going for, something that's hypnotic and nightmarish, and Ozzy did stuff like this, but it takes serious emotion to put it across, especially if you're singing in a lower register. It needs a little more crackle of some kind. Now Ozzy approached this stuff with a kind of energy and a kind of irony, when he was singing these very simple melodies, and he never used any vibrato. He had a really straight ahead delivery, but he made the stuff work. And so what I would suggest to these guys, keep moving in this direction because it's obviously natural for you. Listen to some early Sabbath, okay, just in terms of the vocal delivery, because I think if you get to that place, you could take it over the top. Right now, I think that's the only thing holding this tune back. And also, just a technical note, and something that I like to do when I record. Consider doubling the vocals an octave up, and it doesn't have to be share the stage equally. But when you're working in a low register with this kind of music, you run the risk of draining, of sapping the energy rather than focusing it. So I think if these vocals were a little more stylized and delivered with a little more intensity and and theatrical, delivered with a little more drama. I know that the that's a natural thing for me with my theatrical training. I tend to have a dramatic, delivery. Now, granted, this is a song that's trying to create a mood, but I think that while the melody can stay exactly the way it was, the delivery needs to be more pointed. It has to be delivered with a little more emotion. Then this thing could be absolutely terrifying.
It was lacking a little conviction. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Also, Tony, I mean, these are all great suggestions. Have you ever thought about producing other bands?
No.
I think you'd be good at it.
Up until now. Although I'm not doing it these days, but back before I moved out to LA, I was a vocal coach, and I was teaching a lot of, I was doing a lot of.
Are you not?
What's that? No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it out here. But I did really enjoy it. I always enjoy teaching because it's coming from an operatic background and having had really good teachers. I like to help guys do the metaphorical, getting your hands on your instrument, which of course you can't do, as a singer, you can't put your hands on it. And if we have the time, I'll explain why that's my approach, because it has to do with my vocal influences from back in the day. But yeah, I enjoyed teaching, and I enjoyed getting people to think about what they're doing. I had the benefit of a tremendous musical education. So
you're ready for the next one. Here it goes. It's one more we're going to do.
One more.
And I'll pick this one here. And
what you got going? It's not Demon from the 80s. It's Night Demon.
It's Night Demon. Can you see that, Tony? Did you get a clip of Night Demon? All right. So
they're into ABBA, apparently, from the album cover. Big ABBA fans.
So these guys, when you think of new wave of British heavy metal, that's who Night Demon is. The Diamond Head, those types of bands, that kind of sound. Did you get the clip for Night Demon, Tony?
Yes. Yep. Got it right here.
This is the wild card pick that I have.
Oh, this is wild card.
Wild card pick, Night Demon. What are your thoughts, Tony?
All right, let's listen to a couple seconds of this here. Just refresh my memory. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Remember Demon?
This is Night Demon.
I know, but could be Demon from the 80s.
Cat likes it.
I like these guys. These guys.
The cat got all excited listening to Night Demon.
Yeah, look, he wants to groom my beard now. He's like,
now that's going crazy.
Tony's getting groomed.
he's all fired up. You're all fired up.
He loves that Night Demon. He loves the new album sound.
Okay. This is Fiorello's pick for the wild card. Fiorello says, pause up. These guys are great. This stuff swings. It sounds natural in a way, that like in a Motorhead kind of way. Only thing, my only criticism, I really like what these guys are doing because they're obviously comfortable in their own skin.
Mm-hmm.
Lyrically, subject matter, very it's really recycled and kind of trite stuff. If you can elevate the lyrics, sing the same notes, sing it the exact same way, make it about something else, rather than just singing about metal, putting your fist in the air. God knows I've been there and I have done it, but I think that's my one criticism of these guys, and I think of all these bands that we've listened to today. These guys are actually the most natural sounding, because I mean, look at their video. They're playing in a bar, and they play like they're playing in a bar, and that's fucking awesome, So
they probably have a lot more experience as a band together, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and people also got to realize the one thing you got to do if you want to make it in a band is you got to play.
You have to be a band.
You really have to.
But you go back to those early Raven albums. I mean, there's the same kind of feel, right? They're just going, the Gallagher brothers going wacko.
That's right.
In the recording studio.
That's it. It's and that's what it comes down to. So let's move to some questions here that I have.
There's one here. What is this? Tony, who is your favorite singer? From Christopher.
Okay. Jimmy, I think we talked about this at one time, and this comes up quite a bit in conversation, not just in music. I cannot answer that question.
No, I guess pick a genre, right? Pick a genre.
I will tell you, who is my favorite singer? I don't know. I like Mariah Carey.
There you go.
Things.
Let's talk about my favorite singers from. In terms of, I'm not going to talk about my favorite singers because that's a whole different thing. But who is actually influential?
Okay.
Well, that's I think that's a more important question. Now, naturally, in metal, like the greats in my style are of course Halford and Dio and Dickinson, and even Jeff Tate. And he was admittedly doing more with less in terms of an instrument, but he somehow got these amazing dramatic performances, out of
right.
Now, the reason I point to these guys, and these guys are of course the iconic, metal singers of their day, is because they were probably influenced by the same people I was, since we're a little closer in age, and that for me. Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. When I heard that stuff in the 70s as a kid, I was out of my mind.
Oh yeah.
And I was in a garage band playing Highway Star and trying to hit that freaking note at the very beginning.
Yes.
I should have known right then that I was screwed. So
heck, he can't even hit that note anymore.
As soon as I was able to do that. But that kind of stuff and those kind of harmonies, and you could see where that a whole new thing was being born. So Ian Gillan, Lou Gramm from Foreigner, who I actually sounded quite a bit like when I was younger. When I used to play that stuff in bands and in bars and stuff, I could do a pretty good Lou Gramm. Now Brad Delp. From Boston.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Of course, ridiculous.
Yes.
When I was in college, I was playing some of that stuff in a band, and Oh my God, I'll never forget it. I was working with this singer, rest his soul, who was incredibly talented, and Steve Casey was a friend of mine in college, and we would put Boston songs on the jukebox, and whenever one of us would nail, we'd sing along, and whenever one of us would nail like a worthy note, we would get a beer poured over. So the two of us were like drunk out of our minds, screaming to Boston tunes on the lyrics on the jukebox, drenched in beer. Those were some of the fondest college memories that I'll share with you. But Red Delp, of course. Now, going back, way back, Mark Farner from Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah, sure.
Always loved the way he sang, and now we're talking about stuff that actually influenced me, stuff that made me sing, the way I do. And in addition to all that, of course, there was David Bowie. He is the whole reason that I wanted to be a rock star at all.
Yeah.
Even though I can't count him as an influence, you have to mention Freddie Mercury.
Oh, great voice.
Okay, because that's just a unique voice. Do I sound anything like him? No, but in terms of being a frontman and getting your stuff across, with power and emotion, and even when you listen to some of his live performances, even when he was struggling with range a little bit, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
He was just like a frontman's frontman. It was ridiculous. Now, we're going to get to my number one influence.
Yes.
Edgar Winter.
Okay.
Really?
Hold on, wait.
Edgar Winter.
I wanted a drum roll there, but anyways, Edgar Winter.
Edgar Winter. And if you go back, way back, we're talking early 70s, there's an album called Entrance, and another one called First Winter. Now, these are comparatively obscure records right now, but Eric, as now, he's also a sax player. So this comes back to what I talk about when I'm talking as a singer, that you need to find a metaphorical way to put your hands on your instrument.
Sure.
If you listen to Edgar Winter's phrasing, it's almost like he is fingering a saxophone when he sings. There is such precision in these blues riffs that he does, and I was blown away by this stuff. So Entrance and those two albums, that's essentially my Bible. Everything stylistically that I've ever done and recorded, you can find in there. So Edgar Winter is unquestionably my first and biggest influence as a singer. Now, I've stolen stuff from lots of other people, from Billy Joel to Stevie Wonder to Chrissie Hynde to Joni Mitchell, in terms of phrasing and delivery. But that's because I listen to just all kinds of different stuff. But those are the big. Oh, of course, Dio. I mean, right up my alley. So those are the big ones for me. Those are the singers who sent me, who made me sing.
There you go.
Here's a question from Stefanos. Okay.
Okay.
In and outs in your career, in the Riot career, what would you have done differently if you had the chance? Would you have changed anything? Bottom line, when you were in Riot,
well, getting paid would have been number one.
Well, I mean,
I tell you, yeah.
Okay, I guess I don't know. Maybe hire someone to
absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely. The only thing I would have done differently is had my shit together business wise. Because if Riot had their shit together business wise and didn't take a lot of bad advice, and to be perfectly honest, we shot ourselves in the foot more than once. If we had, first of all, we never should have signed that contract with CBS Sony in the form that it was presented to us. But in those days, you didn't have much of a choice. We should have had a lawyer from the very start, and we should have had the courage to distance ourselves from toxic relationships once they developed. So the only thing I would have done differently is had our business end sewn up before we ever walked into a studio. Now, that's the only thing I would have done differently, because musically it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. It was, it was formative. It was challenging. We challenged each other to do things that were absurd. And the band live was out of this world. So, I mean, yeah, all that was missing was we were being handled by the wrong people, and we didn't know enough. In those days, you needed to be working at a major recording studio because, you know, digital hadn't happened yet. There was no such thing as Pro Tools. You had to go to a recording studio to record your stuff. That means somebody owned the studio. That means there was a producer attached to it. And these people were not always working in your best interests. And I'm sure, you know, 1,000 bands could tell you 1,000 different stories that are virtually identical. Have your business shit sewn up. That's what I would have done differently. Nothing else.
Could you have changed? I mean, do you really think that, okay, so you would have had your lawyer present and your lawyer would have said, okay, this is our counter offer, and he would have read all the sort of loopholes, if there were any loopholes. But the record company at the end of the day, they said, look, either you take it or you leave it. We don't care what your lawyer has to say. Was there a lot of that?
It wasn't so much the contract itself, because that was a standard boilerplate contract that most bands were being handed. Were you ever going to make a ton of money if you didn't sell 5 million records? No. But what should have happened was, or what I would have changed, let's just say, is that I would have had a better manager who was an actual manager. The circumstances of the guy who was our manager on paper, that was not healthy. This guy didn't know what he was doing. It was kind of like a hobby for him, and our producer was kind of taking advantage of him, letting him feel like he was producing an up and coming metal band while just using him to bankroll the operation. So it's at that point that the toxicity in all the relationships started to coalesce, and we started to see things for what they are. We should have taken more of an interest in our own business interests.
Yeah.
We were very naive at the time.
And I think those business struggles even predate your entering the band. I mean, that might be the Achilles heel of the Riot legacy, and for a lot of bands back in the early '80s.
Sure.
It's not having the lack of management and poor management, poor contracts, poor representation.
Look at Anvil. I mean, this could be the Anvil story, right?
I mean, they're parallel stories.
Lips told us the exact same thing, right? I mean, again, it was they were on Attic Records, right? And I know Attic Records.
They were using their demos. They were handing out albums as demos and charging the band. The band got no credit for it.
No. What they were doing was they would make the
promotional copies.
They would give promotional copies to the radio stations, but they would have to pay full retail pop, the band out of their own money they would to give to those radio stations. Not even at wholesale price. Was there a lot of that going on?
I think that kind of thing was like the least of our worries. I mean,
I guess so.
You guys will recall that some live albums surfaced after we all sort of broke up after the Privilege of Power.
Right.
Riot Live in Japan.
Yeah.
You guys familiar with the genesis of those gems? What happened was that the band had no involvement or knowledge of those albums whatsoever. I had been out of the band for a couple of years, and I was walking around the Upper East Side in New York City, and dropped into I think it was Virgin Records when there were still record stores on the earth, and I said, let me go see if some of that Riot stuff is still in print. So I go flipping through. Hey, there's still a Riot section. This is awesome. And there's there's Thundersteel, and there's Privilege of Power, and there's Riot Live in Japan. I'll be damned. And I picked it up.
And I'm singing on it.
And this was from so our producer had smuggled a DAT player. You remember DAT recordings?
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Into a couple of our shows in Tokyo. And these were great performances, man. This band was on fire in those days. There were some videos on YouTube of, like Riot Live in Japan in the 80s. Jesus Christ, we were smoking. But our producer took a live, like a dry feed straight off of the mixing console in the middle of the room with no ambient sound whatsoever.
Oh yeah.
And took it back to the studio and slapped some reverb on it and released it in Japan and cut a deal himself with Japan to release this record. The band didn't even know it came out.
Wow.
And that happened more than once. And plus, it sounded like shit.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, it sounds so awful. You could hear that the performance was really top shelf, but the sound was, of course, shit, because it was completely dry, no effects, and I think he just threw some reverb on it and mastered it and sold it.
Which was the case for, again, a lot of bands. This has happened on so many bands, so many.
Show business and the almighty dollar.
Well, we only got a few minutes left, so we'll leave it with this. All right. First of all, I want to thank all the bands.
Yeah,
right.
Great,
so
great suggestions. Here we go.
Got Wardrum,
from the top.
Wardrum. We have Signs of Madness. We have Viken, not Viking, but Viken, and we have 20 Grit, and we have Drown 10. And we have 19, man. Thank you all for participating. Tony, you have your band called the Immortal Souls, right? They're called the Immortal Souls, correct?
It's actually called the Immortal Soul Band.
The Immortal Soul Band. I know Neil Turbin is fronting that band.
Yeah.
Soul and rock and roll around LA. You got a new band that's coming.
Neil
out.
Turbin doing Otis Redding. I gotta hear this.
Actually, were you there when Adrian Smith played? I know Adrian Smith played with Neil Turbin one night. He sent me the. Were you there that night when they played?
No, I wasn't there for that one. No.
Yeah, it's very cool. So maybe it was just another jam session altogether, right?
Yeah, there's this thing that goes out here, on out here every Tuesday at Lucky Strikes called Lucky Strike Soundcheck Live, and it's a great jam session if you're ever in the LA area and you want to hear just some of LA's finest getting together and throwing down. It's a lot of fun, and I am occasionally there playing, singing, and it could be anything. Sometimes there's a theme, sometimes there's not, but it's just whoever is recording and touring and who is in town, gets together, and it's a ton of fun, and it's free admission. So
I know Chuck Wright from Quiet Riot.
Oh yeah, and then Chuck is doing his thing over at the Whiskey on Wednesday nights. He also has an all-star jam. So the guys, there's a terrific musical community out here in LA, and the guys are really making an effort to get together and just have some fun.
Yeah. Alan, do you have any last words?
Tony, it was a pleasure. Very insightful, very interesting, and big fan. And thank you for joining us here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Great speaking with you guys, and sending you and yours all the best wishes for a happy and prosperous 2017. And thanks to all the bands. If you guys are watching and listening, never quit. Keep doing what you're doing. You can always get better. And there's nothing better than being a rock star. So,
words of wisdom.
So rock on, y'all.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. And everybody, keep in mind that there will be a Riot tour documentary coming out when it's all said and done. I don't know when that's going to be. Still
on
going.
The cutting room
editing,
floor,
cutting room
computer
floor, cutting room floor.
And Jimmy, you guys, if you're
always adding parts, I could give everybody. I know Lips from Anvil's in it. There's a little bit of spoiler there. I know 20 more is in it. There's another spoiler for you.
If you ever have any additional questions, if something comes to mind and you think I might be able to help out with some history or insight, by all means, just text me, give me a call. It's always fun talking to you guys.
And you know what? We'll do this again, okay? Sometime in the future, we'll pick another topic and maybe we'll just do some sort of music debate. All right?
Absolutely. Sounds great, man.
Thank you. The Metal Voice wishing everyone.
Cat's name again?
Theo.
Fiorella.
Okay.
Fiorella. Right, later from LA. Take it easy, guys.
Thank you.
Ciao, bye.
All right. Bye-bye.